Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, my students? I hope that you're happy and healthy and ready for today's lesson from Unit 2, the pair work. And if you remember, the theme of this unit is going green, going with the clean energy. But before we do that, let's go to the workbook, page 87. Go to the workbook, your workbook, of course, page 87, exercise A. Write the words from the box next to their definitions. Write the words from the box next to their definitions. So we have here a list of definitions and we have list of words here. So all we have to do is to match them to write the correct term with the correct definition. Of course, the first one is already done for you. This is when food and plants are grown without chemicals. Again, this is when food and plants are grown without chemicals, and the answer here is organic. Organic food is food that is grown without any interference of chemicals. So before we do that, let's read the words here. We have the word conserve, efficient, plastic, tap water, consumption, organic is already done, recycle, thermostat, crank up, pesticides, and source. So conserve, efficient, plastic, tap water, consumption, organic, recycle, thermostat, crank up, pesticides, and source. So let's jump to number 1 here. This is the water that you get right out of the sink. This is the water that you get right out of the sink from the faucet. From the sink and the faucet when you turn the faucet on. So what do we call this type or kind of water? Number 1, this is the water you get right out of the sink. So what do we call it? Let's check the answer here together. Yes, we call it tap water. So when someone says tap water, it means the water that comes out of the faucet from the sink. Number 2, this is what we do when we turn something up, like the heat or the volume of the radio. Again, this is what we do when we turn something up. When we turn something up, like the heat of the air conditioner or the volume of the television or the radio. When you turn the volume up, when you turn something up, what do we call it? This is what we do when we turn something up, like the heat or the volume on the radio or, of course, the television. So what do we call it? Let's check the answer here together. To crank up. When someone says crank up the volume, it means to turn the volume up of the television or the radio. Number 3, these are chemicals that farmers use to keep bugs and animals away from the fruits and vegetables they grow. Again, the chemicals that farmers use to keep bugs and animals away from the fruits and vegetables they grow. The farmers in their farm, what do they use to keep the bugs and the other animals and insects away from the food, from the vegetables and the fruits? What do we call this? Yes, we call it pesticides. Pesticides, so they spray pesticide on the fruit and vegetables to keep the bugs away. Number 4, this is the gauge that controls the temperature of our heat, air conditioning, or hot water heater. Again, this is the gauge that controls the temperature of our heat, air conditioning, or hot water heater. So what do we call it? What do we call it? The gauge that controls the temperature. That's correct. We call it the thermostat. We call it the thermostat. Number 5, this is when we try to save something by only using little of it. We usually do this because there's a limited supply of it and we don't want to waste it. Again, number 5, this is when we try to save something by only using little of it. When we use little of this thing. Why? Because we usually do this because there's a limited supply of it and we don't want to waste it. So we use it just a little because there's a limited supply of it and we don't want to waste it. So what do we call this whole action here? Let's check the answer here together. We call it conserve. Like conserving water is to save water. Number 6, this is a synthetic material that we use in place of metal and wood. Synthetic material that we use in place of metal and wood. It's light and difficult to break. What do we call this synthetic material, man-made, that we use in place of metal and wood that is lightweight and difficult to break? So what do we call this material that is light and difficult to break? Let's check the answer here together. We call it plastic. Number 7, this is the act of using something or the amount that we use of something. Again, this is the act of using something or the amount of using something. What do we call this? When we use something, the act of using something or the amount that we use this thing. We call it consumption. To consume something is to use it. To consume something is to use it. Number 8, this is where something comes from the origin. This is an easy one, when something comes from the origin, the source itself. So what do we call it? I think gave you the answer. Yes, that's correct, the source. So when someone says, give me the source of your story, it means that he wants the origin of this story. Where did this story come from? Number 9, this is how we describe something that is productive or economical. This is how we describe something that is productive or economical. So what do we call this when something is productive or economical? Let's check the answer here together. We call it efficient. We call it efficient. Number 10, this is when we make something new out of old material. Again, this is when we make something new, out of the old material. So what do we call it? Of course, this is an easy one from this unit. We call it recycle. We call it recycle, to take the old things and make new things using them. This is the meaning of recycle. Exercise B, page 87, the same page here. Answer the questions. Why do farmers use pesticides? What is one problem with using pesticides to grow food? So this is an easy question here. Why do farmers use pesticides? What is one problem with using pesticides to grow food? We know that the farmers have to use pesticides. We know that. So give me the reason. And once you give me the reason, tell me give me one problem with using the pesticides. So, okay, let's check the answer here together. Pesticides keep bugs and animals away. This is, of course, why do farmers use pesticides? To keep bugs and animals away. And one problem, they can hurt the environment. Of course, pesticides are harmful to the environment, but farmers have to use them to keep the bugs and some animals away from the crop. Number 2, what can you crank up? What can you crank up? We took the meaning of crank up in exercise A. So what can you crank up? Give me some examples. Okay, let's check some examples here. You can crank up the radio, the TV, the heat, and the air conditioning. You can crank up the volume of the radio, TV, or the heat, and also the air conditioning. Number 3, what are some things that are commonly made of plastic? What are some things that are commonly made of plastic? So this is an easy question, I think. Give me some things, name some things that are commonly known that they are made of plastic. Can you name a few? Let's check the answer here together. Bottles, some silverware, some furniture, and commonly made of plastic. So some silverware, bottles, and furniture, sometimes they are made of plastic. Number 4, what things do you or your family recycle? So, of course, you recycle with your family. So what are the things sometimes you and your family recycle? This is the question again. What things do you or your family recycle? Give me some examples here. Let's check the answer here. We recycle plastic and glass bottles, tin cans and paper. So of course, you can see some recycle bins, whether there are plastic holes or paper or glass holes. So different materials, you put the correct material in the correct bin. So if you want to recycle plastic, paper or glass, there are these bins specified for this kind of thing. Number 5, why do most people want cars that are fuel efficient? Why do some people want some cars that are fuel efficient? Why do they want them? So let's check the answer here. They want to save money on gas because they want to save money on gas, and also for some environmental reasons, of course. So this is the revision of our previous lesson. How green are you? If you remember the previous lesson, the questionnaire, some questions and answer, then we add up some numbers in the ending. So how green are you? Some questions here. Number 1, what do you do when you finish using your computer for the day? A, leave the computer on. B, I put the computer in sleep mode. C, I turn the computer off. So be honest here. What's your answer? And number 2, when you go shopping, what kind of bag do you use for your groceries? Do you use a plastic bag or paper bag, and so on? And continuing here, what kind of fruits and vegetables do you prefer eating? I prefer eating fruits and vegetables that look perfect, or organic foods and vegetables when possible, or do you prefer organic foods and vegetables that you grow yourself? So I think you remember what you answered previously. Number 4, what is the source of your drinking water throughout the day? Do you drink tap water, bottled water, or so on? Number 5, do you recycle your garbage? So this answer here is up to you. Do you recycle your garbage? A, recycling takes too much effort. So this is a no here. Sometimes I forget to recycle items. C, I put all of my plastic, paper, glass, and metal garbage in the recycling bins. So which one is you? Number 6, what would be your most important consideration when buying a car? When you buy a car, what do you think of? Do you think of the fuel or the money or whatever? Number 7 here, how do you set your air conditioner on a hot day? I hate being hot. I set the air conditioner at a comfortable temperature, or I set the air conditioner fairly low and dress light. 8 here, do you try to conserve water? Do you try to save water with any means necessary? I never think about water. I try to be aware of my water consumption. I take quick showers. Or C, I try hard to conserve water. I collect rainwater in a tank and use it for watering my garden. And when you finish, remember, each A answer is 1 point, each B answer is 2 points, and each C answer is 3 points. Then you collect the points. If you have 8 points in total, you are very light shade of green. You are not green enough. You are a very light shade of green. So try to learn more ways of being green. If you have 9 to 16 points, you are medium green. You make a real effort, but you need to make more. If you are 17 or higher, so you are in the deepest green possible, your actions make big difference. Then we took some discussion questions here. If you remember the discussion questions here regarding going green, are there any recycling laws in our community? Where does our electricity come from? How is it produced? What kind of bags do most people use in the grocery stores here? When you go to a grocery store, do you notice what kind of bags are common in these? I think the answer is plastic bags, hoping that this will change. Can you buy organic fruits and vegetables around here? I think the answer easily is yes, we can buy organic food here. Do many people in the city have their own gardens? Maybe some do, maybe some. 6, how do people heat or cool their homes? How do you heat or cool your house? Of course, using air conditioners, or in the winter we use the heater, or maybe firewood. Number 7, Is pollution from cars and other vehicles a problem? The pollution that comes from cars and other vehicles, is it a problem? Of course, yes, it is a problem. What does your school do? What does our school do to be green? So your school, what approaches did your school did to be green? Of course, this is all in the previous lesson. Today's pair work objectives: to write questions correctly, to create questions and answer about going green. So with a partner, create 3 more questions, just like the previous ones here in the questionnaire. So create 3 more questions and answers to add to the quiz. Ask your classmates the questions and analyze their responses. How green is your class? So write 3 questions, each with multiple answers, just like the questionnaire here, just to see how green is your class. So I wrote just 2. So I wrote just 2 as an example, and you can write 3 other than these 2. For example, the first one: how do you set your air conditioner on a cold day? Not on a hot day, on a cold day, if it's cold. I don't turn it on, I use the heater. I put it on heat mode, I don't mind the cold. You just leave it cold. So, I don't turn it on, I use the heater. B, I put it on heat mode, you put the AC on heat mode, or that you don't mind the cold. Number 2, what do you do with the plastic bags from the grocery store after you're done with them? When you go to a grocery store and you buy groceries for your house, what do you do with the plastic bag left with you? A, I throw them in a regular garbage bin or a trash can. It's the same thing, garbage bin or a trash can. B, I throw them in the street. C, I throw them in a recycling bin. So, do you throw them in a regular garbage bin, not a recycle, a regular garbage bin? B, you just throw them in the street or wherever you are. Or C, throw them in a recycle bin. And remember, if the answer is A, it's 1 point. B, it's 2 points. C, it's 3 points. So these are 2 questions that I came up with regarding going green. Try to come up with 3 more. Each question, just like these, have 3 multiple answers. The more you go closer to the C, the more your points are higher. So A is 1 point, B is 2 points, C is 3 points. So other than these 2, try to write 3 more questions and ask with your classmates just to check how green is your class. So here's a fun fact here. According to one source, these are 5 of the greenest cities in the world. 5 of the greenest cities in the world. Let's check them out. The first one is Reykjavik in Iceland. It uses hydrogen buses and gets all of its electricity from geothermal and hydropower. Reykjavik in Iceland, again, it uses hydrogen buses and gets all of its electricity from geothermal and hydropower. Of course, from the earth, from the deep of the earth. This is where they get their electricity. Portland, Oregon in the US, it has a good system of public transportation and encourages the use of bicycles. It also has 92,000 acres of green space. Portland in Oregon, US, it has a good system, again, of public transportation and encourages the use of bicycles. Try to use more bicycles to save the environment. It also has 92,000 acres of green space. In Brazil here, Curitiba, this city is famous for its bus system, which is used by 3/4 of its people. It also has many city parks. They even use sheep to cut the grass. They don't use machines to cut the grass. They use sheep. This is out of saving the environment and also going green. Also here Malmö in Sweden, although this is Sweden's third largest city, it is known for its many parks and lots of green spaces. Notice here all of these cities, they have parks in them. The last one is Vancouver, Canada. This large city draws 90% of its power from renewable energy sources. It is a leader in hydroelectric power, and it's developing system to use wind, solar, wave, and tidal energy to reduce fossil fuel use. So Vancouver, Canada, they try to get their electricity from not from the fossil fuel, but from wind and the waves, and it says here the tidal energy, just all of this to reduce the fossil fuel use. And with that, we reach the end of this lesson. See you next lesson, inshallah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.